The sun poured gold over the hills of Napa Valley as white-gloved valets opened car doors for guests in designer suits and pastel gowns. At the top of the hill, Crane Vineyards glistened like a diamond fortress, ornate chandeliers flickering. Inside the glass ballroom, a string quartet warming up near the altar beneath an arch of ivory roses. Philip Crane adjusted his cufflinks and gave the press a practiced smile. Cameras flashed. His new fiancée, Lila Jameson, barely 22, glowing in a champagne silk gown, stood beside him, gripping his arm like a prize. Her makeup was flawless. Her nerves were not. Just breathe, darling, Philip whispered. Today's about legacy. Guests filed into rows. Billionaires, board members, and influencers, all curated, all watching. Philip lived for these moments. Perfectly staged, precisely controlled. That control shattered when a long black limousine glided up the gravel path. It wasn't part of the schedule. Philip's smile twitched. Lila's hand stiffened on his wrist. From the limo, the door opened slowly. First, a dainty ivory heel touched the earth. Then came Amelia Crane, his ex-wife, stepping out in a floor-length dove-gray gown. Her hair fell in soft waves over one shoulder. Her posture, regal. Her expression, calm, measured, unreadable. But it wasn't just her that stunned the crowd. Trailing behind her, holding her gown gently in their tiny hands, were 4 identical boys. No more than 4 years old. All with the same sandy hair, the same piercing gray eyes, the unmistakable eyes of Philip Crane. Gasps broke the silence like shattered glass. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word, and tell us where you're watching from. Lila's face drained of color. She whispered, "Philip, who are they?" Philip didn't answer. His jaw locked. The champagne flute in his hand trembled slightly. The guests murmured louder. A photographer's flash popped. The boys clung to Amelia's dress but stared boldly. Ahead, one of them, braver than the rest, pointed at Philip and said, "That's him." The music stopped. The violinist lowered her bow. Amelia didn't speak. She didn't need to. She walked forward, heels tapping steadily across the stone. Her gaze never left Philip's. Her boys formed a line behind her, tiny soldiers in navy suits. Reaching the front row, Amelia handed a folded envelope to an usher. Then she turned, kissed the top of one boy's head, and glided to an empty seat. Near the back, outburst. No scandalous speech, just presence. Philip stood motionless. The ring box in his hand creaked under pressure. Lila's hand slid off his arm. "Shall we continue?" the officiant asked, clearly shaken. Philip didn't answer. The whispers became a wave. One guest live-streamed. Another whispered to a news anchor, "This is better than reality TV." Amelia sat poised, unfazed. One boy tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, are we staying for cake?" She smiled gently. "Just for a little while, darling." Behind the altar, sunlight dipped just enough to throw a warm glow across her face. A quiet, cinematic halo. Philip finally blinked, but it was too late. He had already lost the moment. Possibly more. And somewhere behind the hedge of roses, another child giggled. The scent of gardenias used to calm her. Now, it triggered memory like an open wound a year earlier. Amelia Crane had been the picture of perfection, graceful, eloquent. A staple in every Forbes couple feature alongside her husband, Philip. But behind closed doors, silence was growing louder. He'd begun coming home later, brushing off her questions with a tired smile. "Investor dinner," he'd say, dropping his briefcase, loosening his tie, and heading straight to the den. No kiss, no warmth, just indifference. At first, Amelia excused it. Maybe the IPO stress, maybe the pressure. But then came the dismissals. "You're imagining things," Philip said when she asked about the frequent calls from Elle. "You're always suspicious." Honestly, it's unattractive. The seed of self-doubt was planted, and he watered it daily, with carefully calculated gaslighting. Then came the lipstick. Crimson red, a smear on the headset he used for Zoom meetings. Amelia had been setting up his study for a virtual gala when she found it. She held the headset, staring at the stain as if it might answer her trembling question. "Who kissed you?" "While you worked?" That night, she waited in the living room. When Philip walked in, she held the headset out. "Is there something you want to tell me?" He looked at her, smirked. "You went through my stuff again?" "No. I cleaned your desk." You left this, and that gives you the right to interrogate me? She clenched her jaw. You're cheating, aren't you? A pause. His gaze narrowed. You're hormonal, Amelia. This is why I said we should take space. Space. He'd been saying that more. Creating it, word by word. You're not even denying it, she whispered. Philip tossed his keys into the crystal bowl by the door. I don't owe you a theater performance. If you want to believe fantasies, be my guest. That night, Amelia stood alone on the balcony, staring into the cityscape. Lights blinked like silent truths. Inside her, something snapped, but it wasn't rage. It was clarity. She saw what he really wanted. Someone younger, someone impressed by him. A blank canvas to mold. Someone like Lila, the assistant who once called Amelia so elegant, and now mimicked her hair, her speech, her place. Amelia wasn't crazy. She wasn't hormonal. She was awake, and Philip's carefully curated story would unravel. Just not yet. Not while he was still writing the script. She stayed quiet. Calculating. Healing in silence. Because if Philip had chosen someone else, then someday he'd see what that choice cost him. And she wouldn't have to say a single word. The divorce announcement came not through a lawyer, but through headlines. Billionaire Philip Crane separates from struggling wife amid mental health concerns. The statement, cold, rehearsed, clinical, landed in every business outlet by noon. Philip's PR team had acted swiftly. His narrative was locked. Amelia had unraveled. The pressure, the stress, it had become too much. What the world didn't see were the bruises left by silence, the sting of betrayal, or the quiet decision Amelia made to vanish. Inside the penthouse once filled with gala gowns and laughter, the guest house lights flickered back on, occupied now by Lila, the 22-year-old assistant. Her laugh rang through the courtyard, chirpy and high-pitched, the same space Amelia once used for meditation. One evening, Amelia walked past the guest house gate to retrieve mail and heard them. I love this place, Lila said, her voice sugar-coated. It's like a dream. You deserve it, Philip replied. You're not like her. Not like her. It echoed long after the gate clicked shut behind Amelia. Later that week, the divorce papers arrived, not with courtesy, but by courier. The envelope was thick, sterile, final. Philip had checked every box. The assets, the stocks, the apartment deed, everything calculated. The last line read, irreconcilable differences due to spousal instability. Amelia sat at the kitchen table and read that line over and over, her fingers trembling. Pregnant. Alone. Branded unstable. There was no press conference from her side. No rebuttal. No carefully crafted statement. Just one final act of retreat. The following Monday, her phone was off. Her social accounts deactivated. Friends who once called daily went silent. A few sent awkward texts. Thinking of you. Hope you're okay. None asked how it felt to watch your life replaced while still inside it. She moved out quietly. No movers, no farewell. Just 3 suitcases, 1 worn diary, and the ultrasound photo tucked into her wallet. The baby, now 12 weeks, already had a heartbeat. A rhythm she clung to in the absence of her own. One cab ride later, she was gone from the skyline, vanished into the world's blind spot. Philip, meanwhile, paraded Lila through press galas, brunches, and startup retreats. The power couple of tomorrow, the magazine said. Healed and happy. His caption read beneath a photo of Lila. On his ARM.N01 mentioned Amelia again. But she was watching, not bitter, not broken, growing. And with every heartbeat inside her, a new story formed. One that Philip couldn't write. Not this time. The clinic smelled faintly of antiseptic and something warmer, perhaps the soft hum of hope. Amelia sat in the corner. Her coat too large for the slender frame she used to carry so proudly. Her hands rested protectively over her belly, the only part of her that still felt solid. She didn't check her phone. No one was calling anymore. Mrs. Crane? A nurse called gently. Amelia flinched, then corrected her. It's just Amelia now. The room was dim, the walls soft blue. She lay back, lifting her shirt as the cold gel touched her skin. Her breath caught. The monitor flickered to life. Her OBGYN, Dr. Rivers, squinted at the screen. A beat. Then another, then a fourth. Silence stretched like glass about to crack. Finally, Dr. Rivers turned. Amelia, I'm seeing 4 heartbeats. 4, she whispered. Yes. You're having quadruplets." For a long moment, Amelia didn't speak. The sound of fluttering heartbeats filled the room like tiny drums. Life, fourfold, beating inside her, persistent, undeniable. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she wasn't crying from fear. She was crying because, for the first time in months, something made sense. Philip had taken everything, her dignity, her home, her voice. But here, on this screen, were 4 reasons to keep going. To rise. To rebuild. Not just for revenge. Not just for survival. For them. She reached out and touched the monitor, tracing one of the tiny flickers. "They're mine," she whispered. "All mine." Dr. Rivers handed her tissues, voice low. "You're not alone, Amelia. It's going to be hard, but you have a choice now. A choice. Not between pain and healing, but between hiding and becoming something unshakable." She walked out of the clinic with the ultrasound photos pressed against her chest, as if shielding them from the world. Her coat fluttered in the wind. She didn't hail a cab. She walked 3 blocks, head high for the first time in weeks. By the time she reached her rented apartment above the florist's shop, her steps were steady. Inside, she pinned the photo on the fridge with a magnet that read, "Still." She rises. She brewed tea slowly, sat in the worn armchair by the window, watched the city breathe, and as the sky dimmed, a calm settled into her bones. Not resignation, but readiness. Let him build his future with the girl he wanted to sculpt from youth. She was building a legacy. 4 of them, and she would teach them everything their father forgot: how to speak with kindness, how to recognize truth, and how to rise, even when the world had written you off. The envelope came by private courier. No note. No return address. Just a navy blue folder and a gold embossed seal. Amelia knew the Crane family crest the moment she saw it. She waited until night to open it. The room was still. A candle flickered on the side table. Her fingers were steady now. Inside, a legal document. Cold, formal, Philip was offering her a settlement. 7 figures. Enough to disappear. But the catch was thick in the ink. She was to sign a non-disclosure agreement. She could never claim he was the father. She could never speak about their marriage again. She could never even speak his name in a personal or public capacity. Silence, it seemed, had a price. She read it twice, then a third time. Her tea went cold. The heartbeat of her children thudded beneath her palm. He wanted to buy her silence the way he tried to erase her name. From headlines, from conversations, from history. Erase the fact that he once loved her. That she once made his world stable before he wanted something shinier. The next day, she met the attorney he sent, a tall man in a charcoal suit with apologetic eyes. He sat across from her in a modest downtown cafe, one far removed from the luxury brunches Philip now frequented with Lila. "I've been asked to offer you this arrangement, Amelia," the man said, sliding the contract toward her. She didn't touch it. "I understand this must feel," he began. "I'm not offended," she interrupted softly. "Philip thinks silence is my currency. But I stopped being afraid of his version of me a long time ago." The lawyer looked uncomfortable. "If you sign this, the funds transfer immediately. No strings, no headlines, no interference." Amelia smiled, not bitter, not sarcastic, just calm. "I don't want the money," she said. "May I ask why?" "Because silence shouldn't be rewarded," she answered. "And I've already survived the worst part, being erased." She stood up. "Tell him I declined." "Amelia, I have to warn you. If you go public with anything, I'm not interested in going public," she said. "I'm just not interested in disappearing." The lawyer remained seated as she walked out, the sun catching the glint of the ultrasound photo peeking from her bag. Her quiet defiance, more deafening than any press release. Back at her apartment, she tucked the contract into a drawer. Not shredded, not burned, just kept, like a relic of who he thought she still was. She no longer needed vengeance to breathe. She had something far more dangerous to a man like Philip Crane: her voice, her truth, and 4 lives inside her who would never be raised in fear. Later that night, she wrote in her journal for the first time in weeks. "He offered me silence like it was mercy, but I am not a woman who folds. He'll learn that when the world finally sees who I've become." Lila Prescott became America's new sweetheart overnight. The headlines adored her, from assistant to it girl. Brains, beauty, and the billionaire. Her face, dewy skin, dazzling smile, delicate charm, plastered every screen and glossy cover from Forbes Women to People Weekly.in interviews. She laughed softly when asked about the whirlwind romance. "I was just a girl with ambition," she told Elle, eyes wide with practiced humility. "And then I met someone who believed in me." The world clapped. They ate it up, the story of the modern Cinderella. They called it empowering. Viral. Goals. No one asked what happened to the woman before her at a rooftop party in Soho. Philip and Lila toasted under string lights. Her ring caught the flash of every camera. She wore white to almost every event. Now, a soft, strategic nudge toward bridal innocence. Philip, ever the polished groom-to-be, played the role to perfection, but behind the curated posts and glowing features, cracks formed. He was impatient when she asked too many questions. Cold when she got too familiar with photographers. Once, in a clip that never made it to air, he snapped at her under his breath. "Stay in your lane, Lila. You're not queen yet." The smile she gave back was strained. And someone noticed. His name was Felix Trenton, an investigative journalist for a mid-tier publication no one really followed. But Felix had a knack for sniffing out carefully constructed lies, and something about Lila's rise rang wrong. He didn't believe in fairy tales, especially not ones with billionaires at the center. He started with public records. Her old address, her former employers. A few things didn't line up. Her resume had gaps. No past interviews. No trace of the companies she once claimed to work with before Crane Enterprises. Then he came across something odd. A name, Amelia Crane, that showed up on an archived board memo. Listed as CEO's spouse. Dated just 14 months before the engagement announcement. The timeline didn't make sense. Felix dug deeper. One night, outside the event hall hosting the Tech Titans charity ball, he watched Lila step out of a black SUV. Her dress clung to her like fame. The press snapped photos. She posed like she belonged. Felix raised his camera but didn't take a shot. He just watched. Something about her eyes. Beautiful, yes, but not bright. She looked rehearsed. Empty. A girl on a leash made of diamonds. He scribbled one line in his notebook before walking off. Behind every fairy tale is a buried woman. And buried women, he knew, had a way of resurfacing. It happened in the early hours of a quiet Tuesday. No paparazzi, no press release, no million-dollar hospital suite. Just Amelia, pale but strong, gripping the edge of the birthing bed with knuckles white from effort and truth. Four cries pierced the air, staggered but synchronized, like a choir announcing a new era. Naomi, her longtime friend, and now her soul birth partner, wept quietly as she wrapped each child in soft, warm blankets. She moved with practiced tenderness, but her eyes shimmered with awe. "For boys," she whispered, placing the last bundle into Amelia's arms. Amelia stared down at them. So small, so loud, so alive. She didn't cry, not yet. She only whispered their names, one after the other, as if claiming a spell. Jonah, Eli, Silas, Reed. Names she'd chosen long ago, before the betrayal, before the silence, before Philip had decided she was disposable. "You did it," Naomi murmured, brushing damp curls from Amelia's brow. "You did it alone." Amelia shook her head. Not alone, just without him. The nurse brought over a thin stack of paperwork. Birth certificates, father's name. The young attendant asked. Amelia didn't hesitate. "Leave it blank." The girl blinked. "Are you sure?" Naomi stepped forward. "Just give her a moment." Amelia took the forms in her hand. Pen hovering. For a heartbeat, she considered. Leaving the surname blank too. Starting fresh. But her lips tightened. No, these children were Crane's. Not by his permission, but by their own legacy. She wrote slowly, deliberately. Jonah Crane, Eli Crane, Silas Crane, Reed Crane. No middle names. No embellishments. Just 4 truths, signed in black ink. Naomi looked over her shoulder. "He'll find out eventually." Amelia's voice was quiet, calm. "Good." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full. Full of defiance. Full of intent. Full of something more powerful than revenge. Peace. The babies slept side by side in a single bassinet, their breaths sinking as if they had always known each other. A brotherhood built in darkness, born in light. Amelia leaned over, kissing each tiny forehead. You don't need his name to be whole, she whispered. But I'll make sure the world knows who you are anyway. Outside the window, dawn crept in. Soft and golden, Naomi gathered the signed documents and tucked them into her folder. When you're ready, I know a journalist who might be helpful. Amelia didn't answer. Not yet, but she stared at the rising sun, and in her mind, the day was already on fire. The manila envelope arrived at the Spectacle headquarters with no return address, no markings, nothing but a single sentence typed neatly across the front. Look at the names. Look at the dates. Inside were 4 birth certificates, plain, official, heavy with implication. Jonah Crane, Eli Crane, Silas Crane, Reed Crane, all born the same day. Same mother, Amelia Ward Crane. No father listed. No middle names. No fanfare. Marcy Delgado, Sr., features writer and seasoned scandal hunter, stared at the documents under the sterile glow of her desk lamp. The name Crane wasn't just familiar, it was fire. And the mother's full name sealed it. Amelia, she muttered aloud. The ex-wife. The one who vanished. She pulled up her old files, photos from Philip Crane's early days in tech, back when Amelia stood beside him at conferences and fundraisers. Elegant. Steady. Then suddenly, Marcy's fingers danced over the keyboard, retrieving timelines. Comparing headlines, Philip had filed for divorce just over 9 months ago. And now these? Her heart thumped. The math added up. And it spelled chaos. She picked up the phone and dialed the internal extension for her editor. Vince. Yeah, you're going to want to hold page 1 tomorrow. He groaned. Marcy, I swear, if this is another influencer with a fake baby bump, it's not, she cut in. It's Philip Crane. For babies. All with his last name. All born the same week he's planning a high society wedding. Silence. Then, send it upstairs. Now. She scanned the documents again. There was no smoking gun. Not yet. But there didn't need to be. If Amelia Crane had quietly given birth to quadruplets and used Philip's last name, that was more than scandal. That was a narrative shift. Public sympathy could swing. Corporate stock could wobble. And if the new bride found out mid-vows, Marcy clicked her pen against her notepad, mind racing. Where are you, Amelia? She whispered. What's your play? She drafted a story title. For Cranes, No King. The Hidden Heirs of a Billionaire. Before she hit save, her email pinged. Subject. Follow the nurse. NO signature. Just a photo attached. Amelia outside a downtown clinic, walking with a woman. In scrubs. Marcy leaned in, studying the image. Bingo. She whispered that it was a trail. Faint, but traceable. And she'd follow it all the way to the altar if she had to. The string quartet didn't stop playing until the second child stepped onto the red carpet. Then the cellist's bow hovered mid-air, the violins faded, and silence cracked across the vineyard like glass under pressure. A long black limo rolled to a soft halt beneath the ivy-wrapped archway, just beyond the wedding altar. Its windows mirrored the vineyard sky, still, pristine, blue as the lies hanging between vows. Every head turned. The back door opened. One slender heel emerged first. Gold. Then the hem of a silk gown spilled out like champagne. Amelia Crane rose. From the leather seat, as if surfacing from a dream she never agreed to, golden dress. Golden light. And 4 boys, identical, perfect, coordinated in cream suits, followed her out, one after the other, holding hands. The press didn't react right away. Neither did the crowd. Until a single child's voice rang out, high and clear. That's him. Then another, Daddy. Then louder. You said Mommy was dead. Gasps burst like fireworks. Flashbulbs flared. Philip Crane's hand twitched, still holding the ring midair. His face didn't fall, it fractured. Eyelids fluttered like a man short-circuiting. Sweat pooled at his hairline. Lila stood frozen at the altar beside him, her bouquet trembling. She blinked at the children, then at Amelia. Philip whispered, "What the hell is this?" Amelia smiled softly and kept walking in a rush. No shame. She strolled between the rose-lined rows of chairs, her boys on either side, like a queen returning from exile. With airs, she stopped just before the altar, just close enough that the photographers could catch the frame. Her, radiant and calm. Philip, caught and collapsing. Lila, unsure where to look. One child tugged Amelia's hand. "Can we sit down now, Mommy?" She bent slightly. Almost. Darling. Philip broke first. You can't be here. You're trespassing. This is private property. A low murmur spread through the guests, whispers slicing through the perfect ceremony script. Amelia tilted her head. Then call security, Philip. Or should I call the press? More cameras clicked. Lila whispered, barely audible. Are they yours? Amelia didn't answer. She simply opened her designer clutch and pulled out 4 folded birth certificates. Clean, legal, unmistakable. Jonah, Eli, Silas, Reed, she said. Born on February 3rd. You do remember February, don't you? Philip's throat bobbed. You disappeared. No, Amelia said calmly. You erased me. I just stayed quiet. The wedding planner whispered frantically into her earpiece, motioning to the event staff. But it was too late. This wasn't just a disruption. It was an event. A reckoning. She turned to the crowd. Sorry to interrupt. We were just passing through. My boys wanted to see where their father was getting married. And with that, she guided her sons to the back row of white chairs, sat down gracefully, and nodded toward the altar. Go on. Don't let us stop the fairy tale. But no one moved. Not even the wind. For a moment, it seemed the vines themselves held their breath. Philip stood paralyzed at the altar, rings still trembling between his fingertips. The champagne sparkle of Lila's gown dulled beneath the weight of the stairs. Whispers tangled through the guests like vines, tight, invasive, unavoidable. Amelia rose from the white folding chair at the back, her 4 sons close behind. She walked slowly, deliberately, until she stood halfway between the altar and the first row. Her poise was not prideful, it was practiced, measured, built for make. She bent slightly, brushed back a child's hair, and whispered, Go ahead, sweethearts. Jonah, the eldest by 2 minutes, took a hesitant step forward. He looked at Philip with wide, wondering eyes. Hi, he said quietly. Mom says you're our dad. Philip's knees almost buckled. He blinked fast, as if the child before him were a hallucination conjured by guilt. Amelia's voice floated through the silence. Say hello to your father. All 4 boys stepped forward, now standing in a row at the base of the altar, like echoes of a man who'd tried to bury them. Reed, the youngest, held out a manila folder. Tiny hands. Serious face. Philip didn't take it, so Reed took another step and gently placed it on the edge of the altar, beside the untouched wedding vows. The folder bore no markings. Just a tab labeled Proof. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Philip, reluctantly, shakily, opened it. .4 DNA reports, his name. Each child's name. A 99.99% match printed in clinical, unmistakable bold. Lila leaned in to glance. She recoiled like it burned. Philip, she breathed. Is this real? He didn't answer. His lips moved, but no sound came. Behind them, cameras snapped wildly, immortalizing his undoing. Amelia didn't move. I never asked for anything, she said, voice calm but cutting. No money, no apology, no name. You offered silence. I accepted it, until you turned our life into a lie with cake and violins. Philip looked up at her, eyes glassy. Why now? She tilted her head, just slightly. Because they asked. She turned back toward her sons. And because lies don't make strong men. Truth does. Lila stepped down from the altar. Her bouquet dropped to the stone floor with a soft thud. She didn't look back. Philip tried to call after her, but no sound came. Amelia walked away, children surrounding her like a constellation. Their footsteps were quiet, but the message they left behind roared. Jonah turned once, at the edge of the aisle. We just wanted to meet you. Then he followed his mother. The string quartet never resumed, and the altar never saw vows to be why midnight. The wedding that never was had circled the globe. A 30-second video clip. 4 children stepping onto a red carpet, handing their billionaire father a DNA folder. Hit 1 million views in under 3 hours. Headlines screamed, Billionaires. Wedding crashed by secret quadruplets. Ex-wife's return stuns elite vineyard ceremony. He left her pregnant. She came back stronger. It didn't matter that Amelia never gave an interview. She didn't need to. The footage said it all. Within hours, memes exploded across the internet. One showed Philip's stunned face photoshopped into historic betrayals. Another, Lila holding her bouquet, captioned, When you're the side chick and the main course turns up with receipts. Sponsors pulled back. A skincare brand posted, "We believe in transparency, unlike some people." Philip's name was quietly scrubbed from multiple startup boards. Journalists dug into old lawsuits. Investors began to whisper, but it wasn't. The videos that hit hardest at IT was the photoed at 4:26 a.m. An anonymous Instagram post appeared. Amelia, barefaced, serene, sat cross-legged on a nursery floor, sunlight pouring in through gauzy curtains. Two of her sons lay curled against her, nursing. The other two napped on her lap. A mug of tea rested beside her, untouched. Her eyes, half closed. Her smile, unapologetic, at peace. The caption read, "She did it alone." In minutes, the post was shared by every major women's page, parenting blog, and empowerment account. Celebrities reposted. Activists wrote essays. Talk shows opened with panels debating emotional abandonment versus quiet justice. And still, Amelia said nothing. Her account remained private. Her number unlisted. When reporters knocked on her door, Naomi, her friend and nurse, simply handed them a note. Some things don't need defending. They already exist. Meanwhile, Lila vanished from social media entirely. A PR statement, likely drafted by crisis handlers, claimed she was grieving the breach of trust. Philip issued a formal apology, but no one read past the second line. The damage was done. His power had come from silence, and Amelia had shattered it without raising her voice. That night, as the headlines blared and reputations crumbled, Amelia sat once again in her nursery. The boys were asleep. The city outside flickered with noise. She scrolled briefly through the photos, then locked her phone and placed it face down. Justice wasn't loud. It didn't need hashtags or speeches that IT looked like this. For healthy sons, .1 quiet home. And a woman finally, at peace. The nursery smelled of warm milk, lavender lotion, and the softest kind of safety. Rain tapped gently against the windows as Amelia curled up on the rug. The twins nestled in her lap. The others stretched out beside her on oversized pillows. The room glowed amber, lit only by a reading lamp shaped like a crescent moon. A book lay open in her hands, pages gently turning as four pairs of sleepy eyes blinked slowly. And so the lion didn't roar, not because he lost his voice, but because he finally found peace. She closed the book and smiled. "One more?" asked Jonah, though his thumb was already tucked in his mouth. "Tomorrow night," Amelia whispered. Outside the gate, the flash of paparazzi lenses still came in occasional bursts. Quick, desperate, harmless now. She rose, walked to the window, and closed the curtains gently. The world out there could wait. Turning back, she watched her boys snuggle deeper under their blankets. One yawned. Another twitched in his sleep, chasing dreams with tiny fists. She knelt beside each of them. To Jonah, a kiss on the forehead. "Good night, my brave one." To Miles, a gentle stroke of his hair. "Good night, my clever one." To Reed, a tap to his nose. "Good night, my curious one." To Eli, a soft whisper into his ear. "Good night, my kind one." She sat there a moment longer, cross-legged on the rug, hands folded in her lap. She listened to their breathing. Even now, with the world outside roaring her name, she felt no desire to speak that Philip's empire was cracking. Lila had moved abroad, according to Naomi. Book deals had been offered, exclusives dangled, but Amelia declined them all. This wasn't revenge, this was life. She stood, walked quietly to the corner of the nursery, and looked at the wall. There, framed in wood and pressed between glass, hung the ultrasound, the first image of 4 hearts. Beneath it, a simple handwritten note, one she'd written long ago and never removed. "He left, but you arrived." She traced the edge of the frame, then turned to leave. But before she reached the door, one little voice called out from the dark. "Mama?" "Yes, love." "Are we rich now?" Amelia paused. She looked back at the bundles of blankets and soft breath. She walked over, sat back down, and took the little hand in hers. "No," she said softly. "Some men are rich. Others are blessed." She kissed his hand. "We're the lucky ones." And with that, she turned off the light, closed the door, and left the world to wonder what strength truly looks like. The end.